I'm on my way to a lunch appointment, but this is a little bit different. This is not networking, it's not a client, it's kind of both. And that's the topic of today, is collaborating with people that also serve your clients. You know, one of the great things about collaboration is that once you build your consulting practice, you have to build it from the ground up to collaborate with your clients. This idea of planning with clients and then executing with clients is an ongoing thing that's fundamentally different from the once a year, I drop my work off, you do it, and you hand it back to me. You're constantly working with clients, you're constantly trading information back and forth, you're constantly following up on execution. So you've built everything about your service model around collaborating with the client. When another service provider or another professional or another vendor of your client becomes integral to the plan and you need to include them, it's very, very easy because you're already just collaborating with a bunch of people anyway. They happen to be inside your client's four walls. Now you're going to add some people who are outside your client's four walls to that same group. It's just very seamless because of the way you build the practice. Bringing other people into the loop is part of the secret sauce that makes this work, because you and the business owner can do all kinds of planning on your own, but when it comes time to execute it, the two of you are not going to be the only ones executing. If you do, you're crazy, because you're not leveraging the power of the team. But most of the time, it's just not even feasible. Like, you may not even know how to do some of this stuff that needs to happen in execution. So today, I'm meeting with one of those guys. I'll get some footage, introduce you to him, and I'll tell you what we talked about when we're done.
Because theoretically, every time
So I had a great lunch with David. David Johnson is a marketing consultant, expert in social media marketing practices, and he and I share this client. We've known each other for several years, and we've kind of loosely collaborated before, but David recently called me up and said, hey, we are upping our game with this client. We're getting in a lot deeper with them, and we'd like to be working with you on the business strategy stuff. So today's meeting was about David and I basically working on behalf of this client to bring value. And I asked David before we left, I said, hey, give me your thoughts on collaborating with other professionals and what makes that hard or easy, and kind of what are the key ingredients to successful collaboration. So here are his thoughts.
It can be very tricky. So one of the things that we learned early on in terms of collaborating with other professionals is that you have to constantly have your eye on value. How can I deliver value into this relationship? And that's not always immediately obvious. So, there are a lot of things that we tend to assume about what the other party finds valuable. If you contact a client and ask them, clear blue sky, why did you buy from us? What was it that made you choose us over someone else or something else? Often the answer you get is a surprise. It's not because of your great logo or the color of your sign or we all love our own marketing literature, so we think it's because of our great marketing work. In reality, collaborating with other professionals is very much the same way. It takes effort and time and relationship history to understand what they're going to find valuable out of the relationship. So I look at collaborating as, in no small part, an effort at keeping an eye on the value that the other party will find out of the relationship and continue to try to serve that value.
Well, and you hit on one thing I think is kind of important too, is the relationship, because you and I have known each other for 3, 4, 5, I don't know how many years, but this is not our first conversation. Right? So getting into a collaborative relationship is kind of an extension of the base relationship that already existed. There's a high level of trust.
Sure.
So, from my standpoint, I feel free to ask you for lots and lots of stuff, right?
True, yeah.
And because I'm not worried about it being a quid pro quo. I know that if you need something from me, you're just gonna be like, hey, now it's my turn. Like,
right.
Now here's my wish list across the table, and you get to work on my stuff for a while.
And we don't settle up accounts every Saturday night,
right? Exactly.
Right? There's some time period, and I'm good with that because I've watched you work for a long period of time, and I've watched how you serve clients' needs, and there's no greater value to me than to know that the person on the other side of the table is somebody that's serving that client just as aggressively as I would.
Because that's what we're all worried about, right?
Exactly.
When you talk about referring people over, it's like, well, how's that person going to make me look?
Right.
Because I bust my ass for this client.
Exactly.
If they don't, it's gonna lower the bar in terms of my expectation for what the client should get.
Right. And I don't give out referrals lightly.
Right.
As a result.
Right.
Yeah, and I know you don't either.
I'm 100% in agreement with David. I think that the relationship makes a huge difference if there's personal chemistry between you and the collaborator that's also working for the client, and there's personal chemistry between all three of you because you all get along great. I think things go a lot better, and I think the client gets a lot more value. One of the things that's really cool about this kind of collaboration, and one of the things that definitely separates you from the traditional CPA paradigm, is that none of this stuff goes on a timesheet anywhere. I don't have to get my client to sign off on me and David meeting for a certain amount of time because they're going to get a bill for it. My client's not going to see any bill about today. My client's going to know about today. My client's going to know that David and I are working our tails off behind the scenes to make them more successful. But my client is not going to be worried about the fact that David and I had an hour lunch or an hour and a half lunch, or questioning how much of that lunch did we actually spend talking about that business because that's all they're willing to pay for. None of that enters into the picture. The only thing David and I are concerned about is the transformation of that business, to see it become more successful, to see it accomplish its mission to a greater and greater extent. That's our goal. Everything that we do, everything we talk about, everything we put in place, every piece of information we share is toward that end. And that's an awful lot of fun. I didn't even think about the fact that this doesn't go on a timesheet until I was getting back in the truck and I was thinking about how different this is from the way most CPA firms work on their clients' behalf. I think that's one of the most attractive parts of collaboration, is that it is totally and utterly focused on the outcomes you can achieve for your customer. But I do want to say one last thing. As a CPA and as your client's kind of premier financial advisor in the business, you're going to have access to just about everything. And sometimes we take that for granted, but clients don't. They get a little spooked about other people knowing their financial business, and I get that. But my point to the client is, look, if you want us to fully leverage everything we can bring to the table for your benefit, and you want us to collaborate, it's really hard for me to bring that person in and have them get the big picture when you're constantly pulling out pieces of the picture you don't want them to see. So my advice to you would be, when you collaborate, use the same tools that you use with the existing client team to bring in those outsiders. Now, they have to be trusted, they have to be responsible, otherwise they wouldn't be on the team in the first place. But you can leverage those same tools that you use inside the team with the people who are being brought in from outside the team. The other thing would be to make sure that your client understands you're going to be sharing the big picture all the way down to the nitty-gritty details to get absolutely every ounce of value you can out of that collaborative relationship, and it works out great for everybody. See you guys tomorrow.
I can't tell you how many of our clients don't even know what that word means. So it just excites me to hear you say B-roll.